5, 4. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's workshop. On February 14, 2025, the clerk's office issued a notice of workshop regarding performance indices for gas utilities in docket number 2025-62G. That notice stated that the Public Service Commission staff would conduct today's workshop beginning today, April 4th, 2025 at 10 o'clock a.m. in the Commission's hearing room. And those of you who are participating today, I know that you recall that the Commission staff began a process in 2020, the fall of 2020, to review the Commission's pending or current regulations at that time. And as part of that process, the Commission staff reviewed its Article 8 Practice and Procedure regulations. The Commission staff included some performance indices in its proposed regulations for Article 8. And the Commission, when it disposed of the Commission staff's proposed regulations for Article 8, in order number 2023-481 on page 19, disposed of those performance indices by stating, based on participant input, the Commission should instruct Commission staff to conduct workshops regarding proposed performance indices, which will be removed from the MFR or minimum filing requirement schedules, along with existing filing requirements in 3.2A through G. And so the Commission staff did that. We removed the performance indices from the proposed regulations. They became effective last year. They meaning the new Article 8 regulations became effective last year without the performance indices. So also in the notice, you noticed on the second page where, well, the bottom of the first page states the stakeholder process at this workshop represents a collaborative approach to a discussion requested by interveners in previous proceedings. And then there are some topics for you to consider for today's discussion. If you watched our first workshop regarding water and wastewater utilities a couple of weeks ago and performance indices, I introduced to those of you who didn't know Derek Jones, who is our Department of Energy Fellow right now. And so Derek will be leading the discussion today. And I don't think there's anything else for me to add. Oh, yes, there is. I apologize. There is something else for me to add. I need to ask who's present and participating today. So from the Office of Regulatory Staff, would you please identify yourself?
Good morning, Jocelyn. Chad Torrey on behalf of ORS.
Good morning, Chad. Thank you for being present and participating. Piedmont Natural Gas Company.
Good morning, Jocelyn. Jason Richardson on behalf of Piedmont Natural Gas Company.
Thank you for participating and being present. Dominion Energy South Carolina.
Good morning, Jocelyn. I'm Chad Burgess, and with me is Elizabeth Hutton, and together we represent Dominion Energy South Carolina.
Thank you for being here and participating. And the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs.
Hi, good morning, Jocelyn. Roger Hall on behalf of the department.
Okay. I don't think I missed anyone. All right. I'm going to leave the podium and turn it over to Derek.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming in today. And yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself since I know some of us haven't met. Like Jocelyn said, my name's Derek Jones. I am a Department of Energy Innovator Fellow, which is a fellowship program sponsored by DOE that sends fellows like myself to host institutions across the country. So that's commissions, energy offices, and a couple other things. But just to be clear, I am not a Department of Energy employee, and I don't represent DOE in any way. I work 40 hours a week here at the South Carolina Commission. I started back in September as a member of their technical advisory staff. So that's kind of who I am and what I'm doing here. But nice to meet all of you, and thanks for coming in today. Any questions about me or my position or anything like that before we get going? Okay, cool. So with that, yeah, we just want to have a discussion today, and I think it'd be fair to start with Dominion, since you guys are the party that submitted comments based on the questions that we asked in the notice. So I just wanted to give you a chance to, if you wanted to say anything real quick about your comments, and if not, I'm happy to get into some more discussion topics. But
Sure. Derek, it's nice to meet you. I'm Chad Burgess. We've never met before. And with me is Elizabeth Hutton. And I'll just start by offering thanks to the commission and the staff for setting up this workshop to have this discussion. It may be fairer to start with folks who had the issue, but that's okay. We'll start with my comments or the company's comments. And at the end of the day, when we looked, I don't want to bury the lead here. As you saw in our comment letter, Dominion Energy South Carolina does not believe that there's any reason or necessity to institute performance indice measures upon gas utilities, especially as it relates to Dominion Energy South Carolina. The primary reason for that is the number of reports that the company already provides in the proceedings that the company participates in at the commission already. And just to name a few, we have an annual purchase gas adjustment proceeding. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not. Maybe you are. There's a lot of information that gets shared with the commission in that proceeding. That's not a statutory proceeding. That's a proceeding that was instituted by the commission itself back in the 80s, 1989, I believe. Additionally, the company files quarterly reports regarding its expenses, things of that nature related to its Rate Stabilization Act. Also, the company files reports regarding accounting orders related to PHMSA matters that it is responsible for. I've got the regs here. You're probably familiar with those. There's a number of regulations that require reporting requirements on behalf of the company. Metering comes to mind. Incidents that may occur on the system come to mind. Also, the company just recently filed its FERC Form 2 with the commission. And then probably maybe more relevant for this particular proceeding is when Dominion Energy and SCANA Corporation merged, there was a commission requirement that Dominion Energy submit to the commission on a quarterly basis service quality metrics. And I think in reviewing those metrics, that may actually kind of cover some of the things that are rolling around in the commission and the staff's mind as it relates to performance indices. But there are a number of metrics in there that the company reports on a quarterly basis. Those are, I assume that the commission staff reviews those when they're filed here. I know ORS takes a look at them, and we have discussions with ORS from time to time on matters such as that. And then also in that order approving the merger between those two companies, there's a review, if you will, of those metrics every 2 years. And really that review is designed to see if there's been any degradation in the company's service. Thankfully, there has not been. So there's been no need to expand or contract any of those service quality metrics. We do from time to time when we analyze those metrics, make recommendations to the commission as to maybe tighten some down as far as what's actually being done out in the field. We recently had done that with the commission regarding some home builder metrics that were causing a little bit of issue when it related to residential customers. So there is for lack of a better phrase, a ton of documentation that gets filed with the commission regarding the gas system that we think is sufficient for the commission to be able to determine whether or not we're providing adequate service. Now, that leads me into the statutory requirements of the commission and the company as far as being a natural gas provider, in the sense that if we don't provide adequate service, our customers will let this commission know about it. They will let ORS know about it. There's a mechanism already in place to deal with that. Thankfully, as it relates to the gas utility system that we operate, those matters are far and few between. So I'm very comfortable in stating here today that the company provides exceptional service when it comes to natural gas service to its customers. So with all those things, kind of looking at it from a holistic standpoint, we've concluded, the company's concluded, that the filing of another report or document may not be necessary given the substantial amount of information that's already exists in the commission's files today. So those are my opening comments. That's really more of just a repeat of what was included in our written comments. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, Derek, or have a discussion about any topic that you want to talk about as it relates to the gas business. And I'll be back here in a couple weeks to chat with you about the electric side of the business.
Yeah. Cool. No, thank you for that. Your position was quite clear from the letter and from previous workshops and everything. But I just wanted to give you the chance to recap. And now I want to extend that same chance to any other parties if they want to just kind of say anything. And then I'll lead. I have some questions and a discussion that we can maybe have about some of these topics specifically. But so first, starting with DCA virtually, if you want to say anything at the outset.
Sure. Derek, good to see you again. As I mentioned during the water and wastewater workshop, to the extent that DCA's prior comment letters sort of triggered any of this or was using as a basis given the Arkansas minimum filing requirements we provided, our past comments were really more related to getting the financial information, expediting sort of what would be typical discovery issues and things that, we already have a short rate case time frame. So they're really meant to get that sort of information that all parties are asking for in discovery as early on as possible. I think the commission did a good job of that with the regulations that were passed. So again, our comments weren't really focused on performance indices necessarily. I didn't get a chance to read Dominion's letter and agree that they already do a lot of reporting. As I commented last time as well, the commission regulations already do provide a lot of standards and things, and I think the gas utilities are even more so maybe than water and wastewater. Looking back through those, I'd be happy to give you a list of them that I noted before this call. But essentially, if you look at them, you'll see the types of things that Chad mentioned that they're already reporting, that they're already required to. So again, our comments previously in minimum filing requirements were mostly related to financial terms and issues like that. So again, glad to be here. Happy to help answer any questions and continue the discussion though.
Thank you. Piedmont?
Yes, Derek again. My name's Jason Richardson, representing Piedmont Natural Gas. Like Chad, I don't believe we've met before, but pleasure to be here today and appreciate the Commission's opportunity to create this forum. Mostly, I think we're going to echo Dominion's comments as well, too. Like Dominion, we participate in numerous dockets, provide a lot of information to the Commission. We, by our count, participate in, I believe, almost 30-plus dockets. We have annual reports, monthly reports, quarterly reports, semi-annual reports. By our count, approximately 7 annual reports that we file with the Commission, approximately 4 monthly reports that we file to the Commission, approximately 4 quarterly reports, and then 2 semi-annually reports that discuss the company's performance. It also discuss various programs that the Commission has approved. So again, like DESC, we believe that the level of reporting that we're currently providing provides ample opportunity for the Commission to evaluate the utility's performance. Like DESC as well, our goal is to provide safe and reliable service as required by the regs, and to my knowledge, I think we've done a pretty good job of that. In addition, we also participate in the PGA proceeding. We also participate in the RSA proceeding, which the RSA proceeding is almost like a little mini rate case where the company's performances and financial condition is extensively evaluated by ORS, which then leads to a report that is provided to the company and then filed with the Commission, which then leads to an order evaluating that report as well too. So in short, again, we believe the company provides a significant level of information, plus any performance indices we believe might be difficult given the size differences, the just innate differences between the 2 gas utilities. So a one-size-fits-all approach may not work for 2 very different utilities. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. We look forward to participating, and it's been our pleasure. So,
Thank you. And Oris?
Thank you, Derek, and thank the commission staff for setting this up today. ORS doesn't have any comments, but we certainly appreciate the dialogue and look forward to assisting in any way we can.
Thank you. All right. So with that, I just have a few questions that I want to discuss. And again, the purpose of this, we do want it to be a constructive and collaborative discussion. We're here because an order is telling us to be here. And, this isn't, it's not a witch hunt, right? Like, we just want to do the best job we can as a commission and commission staff under our statutory obligations to all stakeholders. So that's kind of our motivation here. I just want to get that out. So with that, I'd like to move into Dominion's comments, since that's, again, kind of the lone set of comments we have here. And, I just have some questions, and I just want to go through them and hear y'all's opinions on them. It's really as simple as that. So let me get my act together here. Well, so my first question, I guess, was kind of answered. It's on the very front of Dominion's comments here, and it says the relevant performance indices to be collected by the commission are already being submitted. There were numerous reporting obligations. It sounds like most of the parties, from what you guys have all said, are sort of agreeing on that claim, right? I mean, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but that's definitely the tone I'm getting from what's been said so far today. So I think, unless anyone has anything to add there, we'll just move on. But I just wanted to make sure everybody agrees about that. So then next here, this is under question 3 about the policy goals and outcomes pertinent to commission proceedings, and, are we already getting enough information related to that? And this is, a point we wanted to bring up is that these regulatory outcomes and goals like affordability and customer service, they might mean different things to different parties, right? Like from a utility perspective, you guys are thinking about your system costs and that sort of thing. But a DCA, a definition of affordability, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but, they might be thinking about it differently. So I did want to ask, specifically from those other parties, since these are sort of representing the gas from Dominion side, feel that these reports are adequate in terms of those regulatory outcomes. So not only affordability, it could also be like reliability and sustainability, which again, there's definitely stuff there, but I just wanted to afford the opportunity to DCA and ORS, do we feel that there's anything missing at all in these reports, or do they seem very robust?
Derek, I guess it's just sort of off the top of my head. Well, first say, I guess I'm not familiar with all the reporting that was mentioned. I see some of them through various dockets. I will say, I guess, I think reliability and sustainability, I think that is sort of at the heart of most of the reporting. I'll let Chad or others chime in. I'm not sure affordability necessarily is, but that essentially is at the heart of what the commission does in every proceeding, right? Providing fair, just, reasonable rates, balancing the needs of the utilities. So off the top of my head, not sure what else in our reporting would address affordability necessarily, but happy to consider thinking about that.
Well, so I think other, jurisdictions potentially, and I don't want to get into the debate of specific jurisdiction by jurisdiction comparison, but, there are other indicators that potentially are measured by other commissions, like things like percentage of customer income paid on utility bills, or trends in uncollectible accounts, or related to economic development, which is certainly a hot topic right now if you're paying attention to the State House, are the rates sending positive price signals? So, I'm wondering if other parties are interested in points like that, aside from what we already get, if that's a thing that's on people's mind outside of the commission, because you know, there's times that maybe we as staff wonder about it, but again, it's not our job to do. You know, we're not the auditor. We're not supposed to do that, but we do just wonder about it. So that is, and we're not proposing these specific indicators today. That's not what today is about, but it's just something that's been on our mind, and we wonder if that's ever on anyone else's mind.
Got it. Yeah, I think those are really good examples. And those are definitely things that we have looked at and thought about for cases before. There are, there is very limited information, I guess, especially on a granular level, getting down to like zip codes and things like that. So some of it exists. I don't know. I guess you'd have to look to the utility to see what, if any of that they would have. Is that then getting into any privacy concerns with their customers and issues like that? I mean, obviously, those are important considerations, and I just don't know if that's the type of information they would have available or even be able to get.
Understood. And yeah, and that does kind of get into another topic raised by y'all's comments about, if this isn't done like intentionally, it would be just a burden for not only you guys but also for us, just having to do this extra work. And we certainly don't want to create unnecessary burden for anybody, as that would be bad for ratepayers and just for everybody. So yeah, we don't want to put a slew of random work on everybody's desk. Basically, that's not the goal here. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. A topic that's come up in these comments and also in previous workshops numerous times is that it might be wrong or improper to be comparing utilities, like one utility compared to another, because they're so different. Like their systems are different, their demographics are different, and that's sort of what some of this stuff down here is talking about, right? So one, I wanted to ask Dominion specifically about these, and if these sort of demographic categories are those in the reports that you guys send? Are there demographics about the utility?
The answer is no. We don't necessarily put demographics in the reports that we file with the commission. The point that we're trying to make is that if there are performance metrics or indices that are adopted by the commission, then I would presume that the companies are going to be measured against those metrics. And if the company fails in meeting the metric, then is there some consequence as a result of that? So if the point here is if the commission or staff are going to recommend some metrics that would be applicable to both DESC and Piedmont, it's important to note that Charleston is very different from Greenville, and Myrtle Beach is very different from Charleston. So there are different uses for the service that customers subscribe to from us. So where gas heating may not be at the top of someone's mind who lives in Charleston or Beaufort, it may be at the top of mind for someone who lives in Greenville. And so weather dictates what may be going on between the two utilities. So the point here was, if you're going to pursue this, we think that it would be wise to look at each utility on an individual basis and then determine what suits them at the end of the day. Because like I said, they're different systems, they're different customer bases. They're not identical. So what I would say is a one size fits all may not be the best approach. And it also, if you did adopt a one size fits all, it may lead to some indicators that may be demonstrating that something is amiss in the utility, when in reality it's not. It's just a function of location or the customer base. So those are the things that we wanted y'all to be aware of as you're giving some thought to what a metric may look like. Also, too, it would be helpful for us to understand what your goal is, and as far as what you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. Is it data for the sake of getting data? Is it there's an issue that has arisen that we think we need to put our finger on to better serve the state of South Carolina. I will say, I recognize that, and Jason kind of hit on this, that there's a lot of information that comes to the commission. And I joke internally that we probably need a department of reports, because there are a ton of reports that get filed by gas and electric, not just with this commission. I mean, there are other agencies. It is a heavily regulated industry, as it should be, given the status that it has. But there is a ton of information out there already, and you kind of touched on this earlier, Derek. I'm not sure that this commission wants duplicative information. Some of it may already be duplicative, but we certainly don't want to be mowing the lawn twice if we don't have to. And then also, there's a lot of time and energy that gets put into these reports. And there are people, not myself, who are back at the company, and they're crossing T's, dotting I's, making sure that this data is 100% perfect as humanly as they can get it. I recognize we're not perfect by nature, but we do our best to meet that goal. So those are the underlying thoughts in our comments, and then also just presenting to you and staff as you think through what it is that you're trying to achieve. And I understand you're here because you were told to be here. That's obviously a good reason, but you want to be here because there's a goal that you're trying to achieve here. And as utilities, we want to be helpful in that regard. If there truly is a data point that the commission feels like it absolutely has to have in order to effectively regulate the utility, then by all means, tell us. If, I'm just looking back at some of Roger's comments from earlier, maybe the commission that incorporated these in their notice, if there is a burning need to know how many customers we have on a per mile basis of line, let us know. I don't recall ever reporting that, but if that's something the commission wants to know, we've got our purchase gas adjustment proceeding. You can simply issue an order and say, hey, we'd like for you to tell us that information in this proceeding. Not a problem. I think the company would be more than happy to do that.
Cool. Yeah, no, understood. I mean, like you just said, I think you kind of hit on it right there. Is like what we're interested in is we don't know what the unknown unknowns are, and so that's why a workshop like this with all the parties is happening, right? So that if there is a burning data point or something like that, we want to do it. And you ask what our goals are. It's certainly not to waste everyone's time, and we're the ones who read all these reports, so we certainly don't want unnecessary more reading to do in our small staff. But we do want to strive to do the best job possible as the regulators in South Carolina, and I think that doesn't mean that we should go on a witch hunt and create extra work for everybody. But if there is something that could be done, that's what we would be interested in doing. So the workshop represents a very early stage, right? Like it's about goal setting and collaboration, really. So I think, yeah, that's there's some alignment there, right? But we don't want it to be burdensome or duplicative. Going off that, yeah, I think with the one-size-fits-all approach, like there's kind of two ways that this is done typically. It's either you're doing these peer-to-peer comparisons, which you've raised issues about, which I think are, warranted issues. It could be unfair to do that incorrectly. Or, you're comparing the utility to itself, and over time you get a baseline of this data, right? Which, of course, can be established with the many reports you already send out. But again, if there's something that could be important to establish a new baseline on for any of our regulatory goals, I think that's what we would be interested in. Let me see. So I did want to ask the other parties, going off that vein, do you think it's unfair or wrong for the commission to be comparing utilities against one another? And to be clear, I don't mean a sort of non-robust comparison. Like, we don't want to paint anyone in the wrong light here, but do the other parties like agree that the one-size-fits-all approach would be inherently just problematic?
Derek, I don't know that this answers your question or not. One thing I do think it's important to keep in mind is in these various, especially the annual proceedings, the RSAs and the PGAs, and then, you know, if you have a natural gas rate case, the ORS propounds, and I'm sure the utilities will confirm this, a lot of discovery to the utilities. So while there may not be specific regulations where the companies are required to file certain data, there is a lot of data that ORS gathers in the process of preparing for those cases. So I just wanted to highlight that it may be a circumstance where some or all of the data that we're kind of talking about does actually get fleshed out, and it is presented to the extent a particular case warrants in those proceedings.
Derek, I didn't want the opportunity to pass and confirm what Chad just said, because he probably understated it, actually.
Okay, understood. Thank
And
you.
similarly for Piedmont as well too. I mean, you know, looking at the RSA proceeding in itself, I mean, yes, the report comes out, I believe, in August, and the order usually is issued shortly thereafter. But you know, that process is a year-long process. You know, discovery starts for the following year starts usually, you know, somewhere in the fourth quarter of that year, or the first quarter of the next. And you know, there's a lot of discovery that goes on. And again, these, you know, the report might be whatever the reports that the utilities file might be the public facing, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on to generate those reports, not only amongst the utilities, but receiving parties like ORS2, and, you know, the time and energy that goes along with that. You know, it's the company's, the company does not take that lightly, and to use Chad's word, not to mow the lawn again, but certainly there's a lot of work that goes into that stuff to make sure that we are accurately reporting all the information the commission needs and has requested. Again, you know, the company and utilities want to be helpful, but again, I love that term, not to mow the same lawn twice. We would not want to be too duplicative. So,
And DCA, since I can't see you, I just want to give you the opportunity to talk. I don't want to leave you out.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to leave my camera on there. So anyway, to your question about, is it sort of fair or whatever to compare utilities? I mean, I think, you know, collecting data and seeing how utilities compare to each other on some of these issues, I think is you know, gives new data points is relevant. Obviously, you do have to recognize that each utility is different, like folks already said, different service territories, different characteristics from household to household, whether or geography or whatever it is. So just to answer your question, yeah, I think comparing utilities is fine as long as it's recognized that, right, it's not necessarily apples to apples every time, even among gas utilities or water utilities.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So, speaking on discovery and that whole process, which, to be fair, I don't want to call into question the accuracy of y'all's filings or anything. You know, you mentioned you work hard to do that, and we appreciate that, certainly. I want to ask, and staff has wondered about this, if there's value in potential, like you said, there's so many filings here, and even for us, it can be at times confusing going through all the different dockets and trying to find it. So would there be value in having these sort of share a common space, whether that be a docket, or in some other jurisdictions they even do a sort of dashboard that would be on the PSC website, and, you know, just to make it easier for everybody, including interveners, but also staff, to find all these things. Because I'm just trying to think of someone who's not in this crazy utility world of ours, right? Trying to sort of make sense of all this. and again, I'm not talking about new things here. I'm talking about what already gets filed. You know, so do people think that there would be value in something like that? Yeah, it is done in other jurisdictions, and I can see from a logical standpoint a potential value in that. But wanted to hear from you guys.
Derek, I'll go first. Yeah, I would presume that somebody would find some value in that. I think it's obviously a lot of these reports are generated as a result of separate dockets that come to mind. So you may have an RSA docket, you may have a PGA docket, and the reporting requirement, whatever that may be, gets birthed out of the RSA docket, and historically, that's where the report's going to be filed on a going forward basis. You know, I think I can't think of a bad reason to have it all centrally located. I don't know what happens on the commissions in their back office and the commission staff with their back office facilities. I will tell you from experience, I do have people call me from time to time and say, hey, what's that docket number that you filed this in? I had somebody outside the company call me not long ago and said, hey, I know y'all file this report. I just can't remember what docket number it is. I'm like, oh, yeah, you got to go back to 2006. And you've got this whole Russell Crowe Beautiful Mind set of yarn all over your wall. But I do think that there probably could be some value in parking reports somewhere. I mean, if the commission wanted to have a dashboard on that, I will say from our perspective, there could be some value in once a reporting requirement is established, that the utility doesn't have to serve that report on every intervener who intervened in that case from 1995, who sometimes pops up and says, stop sending me this stuff. You know, the case is over. I get that from time to time. It's been a while since I've gotten something like that, but I have received comments like that. So there may be value in that, as well as we kind of think through where to actually park the reports. Your idea of a dashboard, I think all that's helpful. At the end of the day, if that helps y'all do your job, that's great. If it helps interveners not have to send me a data request and ask for something, because I do get data requests where they say, hey, can you give me this? I'm like, well, I did. I gave you that back in this docket already, but here it is again. So, you know, that may be helpful too. So those are just some initial thoughts in response to your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, and echoing that same point, you know, I'm not sure if there's a reason why it would be bad. And, you know, Piedmont similarly has had those issues where things, you know, might have been filed in one docket and somebody's looking for it in another. And like I mentioned, you know, where Piedmont actively participates in over 30 dockets. So that can get confusing when you're looking for that docket, you know, 2005-whatever-G. So yeah, that, you know, it might be of some value to have some central repository.
Gotcha. Thank you. ORS or DCA, any thoughts on that? None from ORS?
No, none for me.
Cool. All right. 1 minute. So that was me just talking to John, our staff accountant, and wanted to ask what interveners might be interested in specifically in this dashboard if it were to happen. You know, are there specific items that people would want to see in that? You know, that's something we would want to know if we were to go forward with such a project. And if you can't think of it now, we'll take written comments on the matter too. But
Derek, yeah, I'd have to think about that one. I know, I'm just thinking back to the water workshop we had last week before, and I know you mentioned a little bit today. Could you give a little bit better idea of kind of what some of the ideas y'all were thinking about for that? I know it was sort of comparing, I can't remember if it was like rate comparison type things. I was drawing a blank on what we sort of talked about last week. I know you went into a little bit of detail about it.
well, yeah, last week or 2 weeks ago at the water workshop, we had on the doc cam here, we put a list of potential indices from the previous dockets, the MFR dockets that Jocelyn introduced earlier, and that was just to get people's opinions on potential indices, but I think it sort of turned into a conversation about jurisdiction differences in regulatory schemes, which like is relevant. You know, that's not something we would ignore if two jurisdictions are completely different, but we're more preliminary than that, I think, so we decided to not have a list of indices this time because we feel like we're not there yet. But is that kind of what you were talking about, Roger? I'm not sure if I fully understand your question.
Yeah, just as far as what a dashboard would look like, if you're going to affordability, or is it reliability, sustainability issues, just those types of things, what you would possibly envision.
Okay, yeah, well, I think the highest level of the idea is kind of what the gas companies just said about, like, there's like 30 different dockets, and it might be easier for everybody if you didn't have to like sift through DMS trying to remember the number of a certain docket for whatever thing you're trying to find. So I think that's like part of the idea of a dashboard. And yeah, I think we almost have the same question of each other. It's like, what do we think would be valuable to put in that dashboard? So you know.
Okay, no, that's helpful. I think if it's finding reports, right, to be able to go in, okay, you could click on Dominion or click on Piedmont, and then maybe from there narrow it down to types of reports instead of searching dockets. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, cool, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, and Roger, I think to add to your question, I think the items for the dashboard would include, the affordability, reliability, customer service quality, environmental performance, energy efficiency, cost effectiveness, the things that were brought up, or the categories that were brought up in the notice. Yep.
Well, cool. Unless anybody else has anything to say, I think those were kind of our biggest questions for the day. John, do you have anything else?
No, nothing.
Cool.
Derek, I had one question for the utility folks.
Yeah.
I just got back as I've sat here and had time to think about it, and I know Elizabeth and Chad and Jason weren't the first one, but it was kind of conversational, so don't mean to keep everybody longer. But since we're here, I just remember during COVID that there may have been some reporting on like disconnections or outstanding balances, sort of days behind. I just don't know if particularly Chad Burgess, if he kind of recalls what Dominion was reporting then, or if they're still reporting that type of information now in any of the various reports he mentioned in his letter.
So I do remember those days, Roger, and actually I think whenever we went through COVID, I think there was a commission order that required us to report that information. As it relates to disconnects, I do know that the company files a report on disconnects on a quarterly basis. I can't recall if that is electric only or includes gas. I just can't recall as I sit here, but I do know we do that. And there's some other data in that quarterly report as well. What was your other data point, Roger?
I think there was, again, I'm going off memory too, Chad, but I think it was maybe like either outstanding balances or at least how many days behind, like 30, 60, 90 type measures.
Yeah.
Just, I'm sitting here trying to find it, and I just got to put my finger on it right away.
Yep.
So
Yep. I'm sorry that I don't remember everything that's in that disconnect report, but there might be some, I don't know that there's some dollar figures in there, but you're right. I mean, there was a time where the company was indeed tracking that. Obviously, it was done in response to the pandemic. But I just can't recall off the top of my head everything in that disconnect. I know the disconnect stats are reported. Whether or not there's any financial information in there that's being reported, I just can't recall at the moment. So I wish I had more information to answer your question with, but I have to look up the report and see.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just getting at, sort of, we were talking about existing reporting and y'all not having to to duplicate things. Just throwing it out there in case that was something Derek or other folks at the commission had thought about.
And
Thanks for that.
from
Piedmont,
Piedmont's
yeah.
perspective, admittedly, the COVID times kind of precede my life in the regulatory world. But to confirm what Chad had mentioned about the termination report, that does apply to gas, and Piedmont files that quarterly as well too. So, one other thing I did want to note too as well was the American Gas Association, which Piedmont is a member, publishes a fair amount of data related to gas utilities. So that might be something that the commission might want to consider evaluating and inspecting as well too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do publish good research, but our main concern is, like, we're very constrained to the record, right? So we can't, if that's not in the record, it might be hard for us to really do anything with it,
That's a very important point that you mentioned there, Derek. I know we touched on that lightly in our comment letter. These reports are just, I don't want to minimize them by using the word just, but they are reports. And they, other than being data points, unless they're somehow introduced into the record and somebody wants to make an issue of them, the commission, other than maybe them looking at reports in their day-to-day business, they don't get judged, if you will, by the commission. So thank you for bringing that up. That is an important thing to keep in mind as we're handling this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, unless anyone wants to say anything else, I mean, while we're all in the room together, I know it's Friday, so people probably want to get the heck out of here, but if anyone else has anything to say, love to hear it. But if not, we'll probably have some other workshops in the future related to this. Like we said, this is pretty preliminary conversation, and yeah, everybody will be notified through the dockets and served electronically and all the good stuff that normally happens. So if there's nothing else, thanks for coming.
Thanks, I appreciate it.